Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Inside Texas Football. We are reporting to you live from the wilderness. We've got Eric is living the good life out in Lake Tahoe. Good for you, man. This is it's very difficult, honestly, for me to reconcile how amazing that background is. And
Yeah.
how hot is it right now for you, Evan? You're still in Austin?
I'm still in Austin. I'm working at a journalism camp, so I'm in a dorm room of all places right now.
Hold on. Walk me through journalism camp.
It's with Professor Kevin Robbins. He was my sports journalism professor. He's paying me way below minimum wage to come teach high schoolers about sports journalism, and now I'm in a dorm room.
Wow, it's you just broadcast that live, and we're recording this, so that's solid.
They don't care.
Just threw the public institution completely under the bus there. We're here to talk to you a little bit today. We wanted to kind of touch base because we're just rounding around the edge here of what has been a pretty productive June for the University of Texas. But as Eric pointed out in his article today, there's still quite a bit that's coming down the road. And I just want to start with you here, Evan. This, as Eric points out in his article, what used to be kind of the fans' perspective on recruiting was this idea of a landslide, right? You'd get this one player, whether it was Malik, whether it was Arch, and then this landslide happened. But that's not really the case. And I'm just curious, what has this June been from your perspective, and what are you hoping to see coming in the next couple weeks?
I mean, it's been productive for Texas, especially shoring up the defensive line with Rodney Cleveland and Wesley out from California. It seems like the official visits have gone well for the most part. I got a chance to talk to some of the players, which I'm not usually as much on the recruiting, but got a chance to talk to some of the guys, and someone like Kendall Gerville sounded like he really, really enjoyed his final visit here in that last week, coming on July 2nd, I believe. So it seems like Texas is doing what it needs to do. What Ian talked about in one of his articles is getting the most important positions on the field. They've already got quarterback, which wasn't Ian's top position, but defensive line was, and that's what they're doing. They might have 4 defensive linemen committed by July 2nd, which would be a heist from Kenny Baker, and then of course getting a top 5 edge in the class may end up being a top 3 one. You can't get mad at that. I saw that rep he had in Indiana. That was dirty what he did to that offensive tackle.
That was gross. Yeah. What? Just out of curiosity, Eric, you've probably known Ian longer than any of us. Has a quarterback ever been his top position?
He was a hardcore Sam Ehlinger truther for sure.
Yeah.
But that team was so reliant on Sam's individual talent, his legs, his heart, his arm, that I kind of get it. Yeah, the hero ball thing. But, Sark is not going to employ hero ball. That's why you see so many different players getting drafted from different positions, is everybody's pulling their own weight. Let's talk about that Ian article for another day, because I want to jump on that live for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move over a little bit to, well, honestly, I'd love to get your opinion here, Eric. What, you have talked in the past, I should say, about, June has been generally a very influential month in the recruiting world. How was this June, and how does this compare to Junes of the past, for lack of a better expression?
Well, it just clarifies the big board. Everybody comes in on visits, and then, kids start making their decisions. We started getting a really good idea of their top 2. A lot of them have a top 4. Normally that's nonsense. They're not still going over 4 schools. They're usually going over 2. More often than not, Texas is one of those 2. So now we just have to figure out, is it going to ultimately be Texas? Part of that is you have to understand how much the kid likes Texas, but also how much Texas likes them. It's just as important how much Texas wants them as the other way around. Because that's going to determine how resources are allocated. And then you have to know who the competition is. If it's Georgia, all right, and the kids from the Southeast, that Texas has a severe battle on its hands. If it's a linebacker out of Houston, Kosio Okpala, you're going to feel a lot better about Texas pulling that one off. So there's a lot of investigation going on right now. I've been on the phones, the last 3 days. That's what we always do. Everyone thinks I'm out on the lake having a blast. I'm sitting in the same spot I always do every year, trying to figure out, call as many people as we can, sources, fellow writers that cover in different markets, trainers, coaches, players, parents. And it's just trying to put the whole puzzle together. But right now, this is, as far as how it stacks up against years past, every year's different. 2023, it was like, once they got Arch, we knew it was over. Our job was done. We said, all right, here comes the flood of recruitments and commits, and that's exactly what happened. This one doesn't have that cornerstone commit, even though Diabell's putting in a ton of work for the class. Diabell's issue is that Texas isn't going as hard for skill talent as they are for the trenches and defense. So it doesn't really matter if he's working on a 5-star wide receiver if Texas is focusing more on in-state prospects. But everything sets up really well for Texas. They're not going to get all their guys, but we're going to start seeing some momentum pick up. Not necessarily as a consensus, just because guys have their announcement dates all in sequence. This time of year it gets pretty hectic, but Texas is going to do really well. It remains to see how well, but this class is going to look a lot different by July 15th.
I can see a lot of your questions coming in the chat. We really appreciate you doing that. Please bring those in. We're going to talk a little bit about Eric's article today, and then I want to get a sense from Eric what certainly if there were any players in particular this June that really got him excited. But before we do, let's hear from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
So, Evan, I'm going to throw you on the spot here just a little bit. I know we're going to go to Eric, but I'm just curious, you being at journalism camp, what would a good journalistic question be for another reporter that covers recruiting for the University of Texas? And maybe we could do a little role play and you could ask Eric that question.
This is so on the spot. That is also so.
How about if we're role playing? Why don't you give the question to LC and he can role play a recruiting?
Yeah, not a problem. Let's do it. Let's roll.
So LC, are you a recruit or are you a recruiting analyst?
Oh, wow. Okay, this is. You know what? I'm a recruit.
Mr. LC, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm just wondering, coming off your official visit here at the University of Texas, what did I'm going to assume you're a wide receiver. I don't know if you have the size to play on the inside, but what is wide receiver coach Chris Jackson been telling you about what role you can play here, and how does that factor into your recruitment?
Well, as you know, I'm a very versatile player. I've got just let's be honest, blistering speed, and I've looked at a lot of different schools. And I have to say, the reason that really brings me to Texas, and the reason I want to stay at Texas, is one, the family atmosphere and the cookie cake. There's nothing better than some cookie cake, especially when you get that frosting on there. It's a little bit light, you get that crispy little bottom, and you get that. You know what I'm talking about? That those chocolate chips in there. Georgia doesn't have that business.
Mm-mm.
See, it's
Am
really
I supposed
easy
to keep going.
No, you don't have to keep going. I answered your question.
We're supposed to get back on track, I think.
Oh, sorry. Okay, wow. All right, guys, this took a turn.
Yes, boss. Sorry.
All right, Eric. If you were to say like 1 or 2 players that really got you excited that we were able to bring in June, obviously we're always trying to shore up that defensive tackle room. That's always an area of concern. We've got some numbers in there now. I mean, does that give you a sense of a little bit more confidence?
My favorite thing going right now is the staff's approach. You know, they've got a very, very sound approach that's married to their roster. You know, they're not going to spend much for a kid that's going to sit on the bench, but they will spend a lot for a guy that's going to cut in line, that's talented enough to jump it towards the top of the roster. Nobody's going to jump to the top immediately, but somebody that could come in and play early, they'll go to the mattresses for that. We're getting asked a lot about Xavier Crowell, the running back from Alabama. You know, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. KJ Edwards is a fine running back, but KJ wasn't going to cut in line at Texas, and he was going to cost a lot to sit on the bench. A&M needed him more, wanted him more, and got him. Xavier Crowell, that's been the top running back on the big board going back to even when he was in the 2027 class. And so now that's where we're at, where Texas is making this one interesting very late. That's just a good example of their approach. D-tackle, they don't need to break the bank. Everybody's asking about Lamar Brown and James Johnson and everybody, all these other guys. I don't want them to do that. You should not want them to go spend all that money because it's going to take from somewhere else. Money is finite. So I love their approach. They're not going heavy for expensive out-of-state wide receivers because they kind of spent that capital last year. They just have an extremely sound approach, and this is why they're always at the top of the NIL game. They have the number one roster in the country. And so that was the most exciting thing for me about June, was to get a very good idea of what their approach is. And now I have a much better understanding of where the class is going.
So I want to go to a couple of these questions from
This ain't true. Hold on a second. This is not true.
Go on.
No, he's not. He's not. If CJ Baxter's back and healthy, Christian Clark, he's going to play early, but he's not a day one starter. He's like the guys that Alabama had, where Alabama had to share the rock. I liken him to Damian Harris. Damian Harris, who ended up getting drafted relatively highly, had to wait his turn at Alabama. Now, Kroll's not going to have to wait his turn to play, but I don't think he's going to start immediately because they've got grown men at the top of that roster, just like Alabama had.
This is coming from one of our patron saints, and that's Brett Nelson. Which committed DT has the highest upside? I'll throw this one to you first, Evan. Is there anybody that immediately comes to mind?
I want to hear this.
I think you want to hear this. I do like what Rodney Cleveland has, because he's probably the most pure. You don't think so? I like the pure strength he has coming in, and he's going to completely clog up the inside, which is something that, I mean, you saw it be a problem against Georgia last year when they were able to run the ball in the interior and inside zone runs. And I think that's where you get the most SEC type player on this defensive line. I don't think the pass rush is there as much with him as maybe. Are you going to say Wells, Eric?
I'm not going to say Dylan Berryman, so you know where I'm going. Yeah, it's Corey Wells. Corey Wells has got very good athleticism and a lot of length. Now he's got probably the longest road to the field. Berryman could probably play as a true freshman if they need it. I'm not sure they're going to need that. Vodney has a nice agility, lateral agility, but also has some grown man strength at the point of attack. Very fun player to watch. But I think if we're talking ceiling, it's got to be Corey Wells with his length and athleticism. He could play up and down the line. He's not Alfred Collins necessarily, but he's sort of that type of player.
This obviously we've got potentially June 26th. Do you think Kroll will announce? But let's talk about this. When do you think Texas will make their final pitch on Kroll?
Well, here's how it works. This is going to be just like Michael Fasusi last year, which was a lot closer than Texas fans realize. And it's going to be like Justice Terry, which is a lot closer than Georgia fans realized. So it's going to be, there's going to be negotiations are going to be ongoing probably up until that morning where, who knows where he truly wants to go, but he's going to try to drive up the price on both parties and then pick the school that he wants. Texas is already making that interesting. Yes, there is some confidence on the UT side. Nowhere, it doesn't mean that he's a lock. They didn't, Justice Terry wasn't a lock the day before, and Michael Fasusi wasn't a lock the same day that he chose OU. But that's how these 5-star recruitments go when you have two highly motivated suitors.
What is the upside for a kid in that position to declare at the end of June? I mean, why not, stay on the market a little bit longer and see what you could get?
Well, everybody should be trying to come off the market this summer. What's going to happen with NIL is everything is going right back to fair market value. It's the NIL collective deals, which really are the ones that perverted the market, are going away. So the market is going to come down over the next several months. At least that's my opinion and the opinion of some of the people I talk to that are more affected by it. So I think going right now when people are sitting on NIL money and, what's left over from the collective days, at least that's what it seems like they're doing, USC in particular, A&M maybe. I think the market's going to start coming down this fall. So, players are going to be more likely to come off their commitment dates and commit sooner. We've seen that happen with a couple already that have moved up. I think this is a good time for him to commit. And it's not binding. So if he wants to, if things go crazy for him in December, maybe he opens things back up.
Again, really appreciate all the questions coming out in the comments. Please keep those coming in. We've got one more word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
So let's talk a little bit about the running back room here. With Texas getting 2 running backs in each of the last 3 classes and all of them still being in the program, do you think a promise of recruiting only Kroll would impact his decision? I mean, as you pointed out, they're starting to build these are proper programs now where maybe kids are waiting a little bit and having to develop. Do you think that affects a player like that?
I don't think taking one or telling him that is going to help all that much. What it does, it really tells you, hey, we're only taking you because we don't need anybody else. Taking another back wouldn't necessarily bother him because he's going to be better than whoever else they took. The only other guy I've seen that's really close to him is Derek Cooper. Not that I've seen everybody because Texas has really cast a narrow net. But I think they can say, look, we normally take 2, but you're the only one we want in this class. But obviously that's tied to that running back room. Like I wrote the other day, they're only guaranteed to lose 3 offensive players on the entire roster next year. Again, now some others are going to go pro early, right? Endries might go, the tight end, DeAndre Moore might go, but as of now, they're only guaranteed to lose 3, and none of them are running backs. None of those running backs seem like they're going to leave early, unless C.J. Baxter really jumps his timeline on coming back to health, or Trey Wisener puts up a really good year that shows a little bit more NFL traits as a running back. So they only need one. They might as well use that to their advantage with Kroll as part of the pitch. But, let's be honest, it's going to be NIL is going to matter.
I want to talk. Trevor brings up an interesting point, and I don't want to necessarily focus on Bell in this aspect, but I want to focus on the idea of maybe salary caps. And do we have space? Because I think this is an argument I've seen kind of floating around a little bit, and I think it's worth addressing. So here's the question that Trevor is asking. Per IT's resident sex symbol, as we all know that is Ian Boyd. What do we think? Would we get rid of Bell essentially to make room in the cap, the virtual cap there, for another player? What do you think about something like that, Eric?
I think Ian is insane. And he might as well empty the guns on that argument before Arch takes the field. Right. And then I see Dia in a very similar light to how I see Arch. And I'm just going to ride with Sark on his allocation. This is also a good year to go heavy on quarterback because you're not going heavy really on skill. The wide receiver class is not going to be expensive compared to last year. Running back is one, but again, we talked about what the reason would be that he could jump in line and play early. Tight end, you really don't need an expensive player. Everybody was hemming and hawing on Mark Bowman. Let USC go ruin their budget on that. Texas has plenty of tight ends in the pipeline, so that it's a perfect time to spend a little bit more money on Dia. And also, I think the roster calls for it too. You don't know how long Arch is going to be on campus. We think 2 years, but we don't know that for sure. And you need to keep stacking bodies behind them. High upside players with Dia to me got the ability to be number 1 overall draft pick. I can't say that about Owens or KJ Lacey, even though I'm very big fans of those. So. Yeah, no brainer to go in on Dia. I love the, Trevor's obviously joking around there because,
Sure.
He calls Ian the resident sex symbol, which gets me every time.
What I will say in defense of Ian, LC, is that I think he did say that any other school but Texas or Georgia or Alabama, like a tier 2 school, it might not be the right investment. But I do think he is pro Diabella Texas at this moment in time.
No, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's talk a little bit, because the theme of this show in particular is just June and how it's rounding out. We've got some commitments coming up toward the end of June here, and I just want to scroll through this a little bit because this is a part of your article here, Eric. On the 26th, we've got Kroll, we've got Lee, Calicut, Simeon, Griffin, and that's going to pretty much round out June. Let's take Kroll off the board for a second. Let's just take the 5-star running back off the board and look at our tackle, our DB, our defensive tackle, and our edge.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Well, my question to you there is, where do you see the biggest need, and which one of these is amongst these the one we really need to get?
They've got to capitalize off Anthony Hill's time at Texas, and the plan for Xavier Griffin is very similar to Hill. Hill came in, played off the edge a lot, was making plays in Tuscaloosa as a true freshman early in the season. Xavier Griffin is not as physically mature as Anthony Hill, but I like the plan of theirs to play him early at edge, get him out on the field, knocking heads, and then graduate him over to off-ball linebacker. They really need a stud off-ball linebacker in the class. So of that group, I would say Griffin's the most important. But they love Chase Calicut. Obviously, Damari Simmons not going to go to Texas. They're only gonna take 4 or maybe 5 if it's an absolute numbers buster, which I don't think they should do. But Simeon's not going to go to Texas. That'll be Penn State or Ohio State. Calicut is a battle with Georgia right now, and the clock is ticking. That could be another one of those where Texas might win it late. Let's see if Mark Orphy recruits with the same style and pattern as Terry Joseph. Terry Joseph loses a guy he didn't carry. He'd give him in October, November, or December. There'll be no need to give up hope on Calicut if he picks Georgia. Malachi Lee, that's looking like Michigan. It's just not realistic that Texas will get Felix Ojo, John Turntine, and Malachi Lee.
Right. All right. As we are wrapping this up, is there we are wrapping up June, going to July. Obviously, we've got August Bowl is going to be starting just right around the corner. It seems like it's going to happen really quick. What is the team doing around this time of year?
They're working out, getting after it. Working hard, 7-on-7 workouts, lifting, running, all that, staying in great shape, developing leadership, cultivating leadership, breaking in the new guys, acclimating them to the program. Same stuff they do every year. We've got insider pieces every Thursday night or Friday morning, based on when we get people on the phone. We cover the team year round, probably better than anybody. We try to have as few surprises as possible during the season. We normally call a breakout player before it happens. And right now we're seeing who's working the hardest and getting after it. But, they should be the top team going into this season. I think Sark feels that same way, even though there's no point in even really, talking about it too much. But right now they're in a great spot all around. Recruiting with the team, program, leadership, experience, talent. It's all married together.
So, Evan, sitting in journalism camp, you're going to start the next season here, working with Inside Texas, start this college football season. What are you most looking forward to?
Just getting back into the press box and the reporting swing of things, because that's something I didn't do last year, which maybe Eric didn't love that. But I was more of a fan last season, and I'm definitely ready to just be back to being a journalist and a reporter I'm in journalism camp, as you said. But football is just so fun. Like, I've just been missing watching football and so much talking about Arch Manning and this defense, when I'm just like, let's just see it happen. Let's see some players play. So what is it? 65 days left until kickoff? Is that around
Very
the time?
close, yeah.
What Will was posting today. So that countdown's gonna be great. I remember I heard Sark on Third and Longhorn last night talk about how soon enough the training camp's gonna get a little bit repetitive. They're gonna pivot, and it's all eyes on Ohio State, which is what the Ohio State team's gonna be doing as well. And once it really gets into that time, about 40 days out, it's going to be really interesting to hear these reports about who's taking over at something like the cornerback positions and who's the top running back and just where this offense will look like going forward.
We want to thank you all for being here. It's just a little catch up, seeing how things are going, rounding out June. Obviously, some major announcements rounding out the month before we get into July. On behalf of Eric and Evan, thanks so much for being here. Please join us at InsideTexas.com.